on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. I hope you're having yourselves a tremendous morning this morning and enjoying your lives and hopefully being safe and being well and making the most of the time that we have on this precious, dear earth. So, welcome to the show, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, coming to you on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT and on WakeUpCallDT.com. So, plenty of ways to connect with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I appreciate you so much for being here, hanging out where sports meets that thing called life. And welcome to today's broadcast of the show. And a very happy day for each and every single one of you out there. And I hope that things are going well. I hope you're staying safe and making the most of the time that you have today and doing some good things out there and chasing your dreams and putting yourself around good and positive people. So, the things that we can control, I hope you're controlling those things well and putting some good out there and as well as welcoming that good back into your life. So, good morning to each and every single one of you from the Cafe Kubal Studios. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Proud to be hanging out with you. Thanks to these beautiful studios looking as awesome as they do. And you know that sometimes we change things up and we do different things in the studio. And obviously love being here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The Cafe Kubal Studios proudly representing all of the Cafe Kubal locations on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street, as well as inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital out in Manlius on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and their newest location, which has indoor and outdoor seating and their first ever fully fledged drive-through window. That's right, Cafe Kubal's got a drive-through now, and that's at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in the historic Sweetheart Corners area, so in North Syracuse. So make sure you make your way out there to enjoy a new and beautiful thing that is being offered by Cafe Kubal, which is their first ever drive-through. I'm so excited. I spoke with Matt Goddard, the owner and operator, about doing something like this a while back, and so to see it actually come to fruition is such a beautiful thing, and I love it. And I got to be there on opening day, and it was so cool and so much fun and just really exciting. So big shout out to Cafe Kubal for all that they're doing, and welcome very much so their first ever drive-through, which I think is such an awesome thing that they now have a drive-through. So big ups to them for that. Thank you to all of our Central and Upstate New York partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, PB&J's Lunchbox, Honda City of Liverpool, Pizza Man, Milkhouse Market, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, and Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory there for you for all 50 states. Whether you're here in Central and Upstate New York, and you can go pick it up at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, or you can go online from any one of the 50 states. If you need it delivered to your house, or you can pick it up on location, if you go to maandpazpopcorn.com, that's ma and spelled out, pazpopcorn.com. If you go there and at checkout for in-store pickup or delivery to any one of the 50 states, use the promo code DT20, that's DT20, and get 20% off your order today. So, with that being said, got a jam-packed show inside of maandpazpopcorn.com's What's Poppin', and PJ's going to start things off with us as he does every single Thursday, as Papa Joe will be joining us to speak on the nation's pastime and Father's Day. And I feel like, being a dad in America, it's connected to the nation's pastime. Growing up, that's what I felt. My dad was connected to it, and I just feel like, that's something that's a beautiful thing. You got a dad and they're connected to the nation's pastime. So it's like when you're spending time with your father, at some point you were going to a baseball game. At some point there was that connection between time with dad and going to the nation's pastime. So today's topics with Papa Joe include the first baseball game he remembers watching, favorite Major League Baseball player growing up, favorite Major League Baseball team and why, favorite World Series and why, first game he brought his son Joe to, a father-kid pastime going to a baseball game. Who are his 5 favorite players to watch now? Why does he love baseball? Who from baseball would he eat dinner with that's passed away? And who from baseball would he eat dinner with that is currently alive? And then we also got a question from a fan, and then we'll get to that in just a little bit with Papa Joe. So we'll be celebrating an early ode to Father's Day by talking about the nation's pastime and a father-son or father-daughter relationship of going out to a game and loving this nation's beautiful sport of baseball. Then in hour number 2, we'll go from the field to the court with Dave Pasiak, and Dave will be joining us to speak on the 2021 NBA playoffs, and we will continue our discussion that we've had every week. So with that being said, let's bring in PJ to the show, and an early happy Father's Day to you, Papa Joe. How are we doing?
Thank you, Daniel. Same to you. With Lily.
Thank you. Yeah, I got the little Lillian, so I technically can celebrate my Father's Day. So, do you have any plans for Father's Day? Do you know what you're going to be doing?
Well, Mary's putting together a little party for me here. We have Kayla and her little daughter, Lily, and Kayla's parents and her grandparents, and Mary and I, and we're going to have just a little gathering here because it's actually my birthday weekend too.
Yeah.
June 25th. So we're going to be celebrating Father's Day for Reggie, Joe Jr., or Joe III, and myself. And from there we'll have fun. We'll have fun. Celebrate my birthday and say hello to Dad.
Yeah, and for you, having your birthday and Father's Day so close to each other, what can you say about what you appreciate about your life today? What's kind of sitting on your mind today that you really appreciate?
Well, heck, the first thing is I'm alive. I'm still struggling, but I'm alive, and that's where I get a lot of I do a lot of reading. That, Daniel, and I read a lot of fiction, nonfiction, people that have had problems, people that don't have problems, and when you're dealing with a debilitating injury, like not injury, but situation that I have, every day you wake up, you just hope you don't have a lot of pain, and you take your medication, you carry on through the day, and you talk to your family, and you have supper, and watch a little movie, and go to bed. Hopefully, I can go to bed and not have any pain. So that's what we've been looking for. I'm going to be very thankful to have the family here, especially our new family since Joe's being married, and we're very happy to have them along with us, and I'll be very happy to spend the day with them as well as my own family on Sunday.
And coming from Papa Joe this morning in his normal post here inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. A longtime listener who loves your Jameis Winston comments, Greg said, "Happy birthday, PJ." So we got some love coming up this morning. You know what, Papa Joe? I love the fact that my nicknames for you are becoming other people's nicknames for you. So when I call you PJ, and now I see other people do it, or the Papa Joe, where I do my Papa Joe. So, when I do my little impression. But the cool thing about it is, people have really fallen in love with, this segment and with you and with what you bring to the table. So I think it's a beautiful thing that, I started this segment because it all started from you and I sitting at the table and having these open discussions, and I just thought to myself, wow, this man really pushes me, and he gives me more credit than I think I deserve of what I know about sports and and whatnot, and he makes me want to learn, he makes me want to evolve, he makes me want to have these deep discussions, and I love it, and we grow, and I'm constantly a sponge to him. And I just thought to myself, I can't be selfish enough to keep Papa Joe to myself. I want to have these, tabletop discussions with the world. And, you allowed me to have you on once, then twice, then football season, and then all the time, as all year round. And I really, cannot thank you enough for dedicating yourself every Thursday to this and for giving me this time, because I really felt like it wasn't enough for me to know you. I felt like the world should know you. and now there's people that really genuinely look forward to hearing from you, which I think is a beautiful blessing from God.
Thank you very much, Daniel, and thank you to your listeners. I usually bring something to the table, and sometimes it's controversial and sometimes it's not. And I know you give me a platform here on internet radio to spew my ratings like you do, your rantings. So I don't have anything to rant about today. I'm coming close to ranting, though, but not quite.
So Papa Joe here with us this morning, and PJ, for me, I just I wanted today's topics to really center around what's going on with the nation's pastime, because I just feel like the nation's pastime of baseball, to me, it directly links to being a dad. And so, I mean, do you feel that? Do you feel like, baseball and being a father kind of go hand in hand? Because at least from my experience, it just feels like, your dad at some point brought you to a baseball game, or you watched a baseball game, and I feel like the nation's pastime goes hand in hand with, the pastime of being a dad that spends time with their kids. Do you get a sense for that kind of theme as well?
I do, but my dad didn't take me to any games when we were growing up. I had to do that myself. My buddies and I used to ride our bikes down to MacArthur Stadium and sneak in through one of the center field cracks there and scurry about and steal popcorn and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
that was the Syracuse. I think they were called the Syracuse Chiefs back then. I'm not quite sure, but
yeah,
I enjoyed watching good baseball, and here I am, 65 years later, and I'm not sure what MacArthur Stadium is called now, but at least baseball is still not flourishing, but at least they're still in Syracuse and they're doing a good job.
Yeah, and it has evolved, and now it's the Mets AAA, which is awesome. So, that connection that they have finally, it took them forever to realize that orange and blue should represent orange and blue, and that Syracuse in the state of New York should probably have the Mets franchise, which is also in the state of New York's farm system. So, it makes perfect sense, but it took them a very long time, over 3 decades to figure that out. So now that we have that, we have this nation's pastime, and we have being a dad, and I kind of wanted to just open up and have a fun discussion in that respect with Papa Joe, focusing on this nation's pastime and being a father. And, as this Father's Day special comes up, you've been a dad to me. You've extended yourself beyond being a cousin or an uncle or anything like that, or a friend, and, have really become such a very huge part of my life. I believe that I talk about you pretty much daily, and when I talk about when I talk about marriage and what matters to me, I've had numerous discussions. I don't know if I told you this, but I've had numerous discussions about the fact that when I asked Mary when she came on the show, and I said to her a couple years ago, when I said, what's the secret to you guys having a good marriage, and she said, it's nice to have similar interests and things you can talk about. But she said, the thing that Papa Joe and I do is we have a similar religion. We believe in the same God, and we pray together. And she said, we pray together every day. And she said, it's such a rare thing to find, and it's a beautiful thing. And I remember that at the time she said that, I was so far from that in my dating life, because I've always been about God, but I haven't experienced that. And now I flash forward to my life today, and someone who really genuinely cares about prayer and praying together and praying every day together, that, I want you to know that you've represented so many things to me, and you have been a father to me, and a beautiful father to me, and a wonderful person to me. And at the same time, you and Mary have really, when you said that you pray together, and that's your love for God and your devoutness to praying with each other and having that beauty together that really cannot be duplicated in any other form of life. I took that with me, and it's one of the cornerstones of a great relationship to me, and the only way I would ever marry somebody. So I do want to say thank you for the fact that not only have you been a father, but you've also taught me what to look for in a person.
Oh, thank you for those kind words, Daniel. I'm just a regular old beat-up guy, and I like to talk stuff. So whether it's baseball or golf or football or whatever, it's just that I have such a varied background, and I have a long sports background that I can talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, and I love it. It's where sports meets life. That's Wake Up Call, and that's exactly what you bring to the show. And so today, in a celebration of this nation's pastime and being a dad, Papa Joe hanging out with us inside the Cafe Kubal studios, and we got some things to go through here, PJ, and I'm really excited to do it, so let's hop right into the conversation. I think this is going to be a timeless classic that we are embarking on today with, speaking on being a dad as well as the nation's pastime and things that I think go hand in hand. First baseball game you ever remember watching?
Was that in person or on television?
How about both? How about in person, and then how about on television?
Well, you got to remember, I grew up in the 40s and the 50s, and we didn't have a lot of go-to stuff there that would make it happy. Dad worked real hard, and Mom worked hard in the kitchen, not outside the home, so they took care of my sister and I. And with that, I developed my own sports background because my dad really never did that with me. So I used to go out and hustle with my buddies and do that and play. And probably the first time I saw a television game was, let me see, I got to go back to the days of the New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers. I got to say probably a Yankees game on television back then, which we had black and white televisions, the little old small ones, and that was, back when I was growing up, it was difficult to move around. We had to do our bikes. We had to take the bus. So when I went to MacArthur Stadium, I always used to enjoy it. Mom used to slip me $5 every once in a while so I could have some Cokes and popcorns and stuff. But seeing a game on television, I think, was the first time with my dad when we watched a Yankee game. I'm going back, God damn it, probably the mid-50s or the early 50s, the mid-50s. And from then on, I took a keen interest in it. And, of course, when Joe was ready to play ball, I coached him right up and through his freshman year in high school. No, actually, longer than that. But anyway, I've been around the game a long time, and I like it. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't too close to my dad, which is fine. I love my dad. He was a good guy, good provider. But we never shared any sports background because that's not what he did. He was an engineer. He didn't give a damn about baseball or football or anything like that. So to answer your questions, that's where I've been for, I probably did this back in the early 50s, mid-50s.
Yeah, so, I mean, and for you, were you always a baseball fan? Did you always have a love and an affinity to it? And where did that come from, if you did? Like you said, your dad wasn't really into it. Where did your love for baseball come from?
Well, I think I did a lot of reading. I used to read the newspaper all the time when I was a kid. And, of course, I had my little transistor radio on where I could get the New York Giants, the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the New York Yankees on radio. That made me happy. That's the best time that I had growing up. And if there was a night game, I'd just lay in my bed, turn on the radio, transistor radio, and listen to the game. And from then, I loved the game. I loved the way it was played. I loved the players that played it. They were bigger than, they were bigger than the President of the United States.
And like you said, you used to just turn on the radio and listen. Coming, up in this world around the New York Giants baseball team and the Brooklyn Dodgers, now the Giants in San Francisco and the Dodgers in L.A. Bring me into those days. I really want to pick your brain about that because there was a time where if all had stayed the same, the state of New York would have had the Giants, the Mets, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. What do you remember of that time, and speak on the beauty of it, and feel free to separate the Giants and the Dodgers into your own discussion or put them together, but I really want to pick your brain on what life was like when there was a New York Giants baseball team and a Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team.
Well, obviously growing up in Syracuse, I didn't tune on anything except those games. The New York Giants, they had their good teams back then, and the Brooklyn Dodgers, of course, with Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale and the Yankees. But I was tried and true Yankee fan. I tried to listen to everything. I would go get their baseball reports. I'd have them on a baseball card. I would collect baseball cards. The Yankees were the ones that I really followed. They actually still do to this day.
And the Brooklyn Dodgers, that was something that, I feel that caused a lot of people pain when obviously that change happened. And not that the New York Giants didn't cause people pain, but, to speak to remembering those times when the Dodgers and the Giants left, how did you handle it? I know you said you're a Yankee fan and you were a Yankee supporter back then and you're a Yankee supporter still to today, but how did you deal with that? And, how would you describe, I know that there wasn't social media and different things out there that really could show people, in real time be affected by something, but how would you describe how the world responded to the Giants and the Dodgers leaving the state of New York?
It was a huge disappointment. I mean, you had every kid screaming in the state, keep them here, keep them there. California, what the hell do I know about California? And getting TV programs out of black and white TV, I wasn't going to watch programs from California, and I was really pissed. So what I did is I put all my energy into sneaking down to MacArthur Stadium. That's when I got my baseball fix. I thought if there was a National League Baseball game of the week or American League Baseball game of the week, it was always on a Saturday afternoon, never a Saturday night or no Sunday afternoon. It was already Saturday afternoon. And if the Giants or Dodgers and the Yankees are playing on TV, then I'd watch that, of course, if our TV worked.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When they left, like you said, everybody kind of clamoring for them to stay. What did that do to baseball? Looking back on it now, as a kid and watching the Dodgers and the Giants leave the state of New York, and then fast forward to today, what do you think it did for baseball to see that move?
Daniel, I don't know if it was good for baseball or not, because the metropolis of New York, it's New York City, they can have 10 teams in there, and they would support them all. I don't know why they left, because I didn't read about it back then, and I don't care about it. Why they ran, they just left. So it was terrible. What I had to do is I had to get the schedules from the teams, which I did. Mom helped me with that, always in the papers. And then I would turn my transistor radio on to that station. And if I turned the radio on and they were going to play, the teams, which I did. Mom helped me with that. Keep it on and listen. If they weren't going to come on, if they got rained out or something, then I would just shut the radio off and go do something else. But we had a bunch of neighborhood kids that we grew up with around my house and your Grandma Marie's house. And they were all in Linkcourt, and we all used to hang out together in the summer all the time, every day. Whether I went to Linkcourt Junior High School to go in there to play in their afternoon sessions, or just playing sandlot ball. We played sandlot ball. If you go up Delmar Place, go all the way almost to the top of the hill, you look on the left-hand side, there's some homes on the incline there. And one of our buddies used to live there, and we used to jump the fence from his house because the other people would yell at us all the time. And that's what we did. We played in the cemetery, right there off of Delmar Place. We jump the fence, play ball, jump the fence, not play ball, go eat lunch, go back and play ball. There was about 8 or 10 of us. So we used to split the teams up, 8 or 10, 5, 4, 5, and 1 on side, and just play ball. We take pieces of paper or cardboard or a bag, and we'll put it rock. We put it down to use as a base, and we would play. We'd have the same rules for both teams, and it was fun because I grew up with these guys. I mean, I grew up in Syracuse, pretty much straight through Syracuse Linkcourt, straight through until freshman in high school. So it was a lot of time, a lot of good fun. I do remember one of my friends. We were playing ball with the brothers, Billy and Norm Altenberg. Just really, really great people. Their people were parents were German, and they were a very strict German household, and they had rules and regulations to go by.
Yeah.
One of the older brothers, Norman Van Altenberg, he died of cancer back when, cancer wasn't rearing its ugly head. And I'm saying to myself, to Aunt Billy, his brother, he says, how come Norm can't play? He says, Joe, he's sick. He's not doing too well. So I didn't really forget about him. I just talked to him every once in a while. He'd go to school.
Yeah.
And then when I would be talking to Billy, I'd say, how's Norm? And he'd say, well, Norm passed away last night. Well, that killed us. We weren't going to play ball that day. We weren't going to play golf the next day either. So we just mourned him, and I still think about it all the time. Big, tall guy, big, happy-go-lucky guy. And a lot of good times when I was growing up in Syracuse and Lincourt, Daniel.
So, I mean, you're watching baseball, you're listening to baseball on your transistor radio, you're watching baseball, you're listening to it, you're playing baseball in the streets, you're sneaking into MacArthur Stadium, you're going to Lincourt Bakery. I mean, it sounds like you had your own Sandlot back in the day.
We did. First of all, the summer was the place for us to be. That's why we hung out at Grandma Marie's house all the time, because it was centrally located. And at the time, my other Aunt Meg lived there too in Lincourt before she moved away. We had a lot of fun. And there were other things that we did besides then. Going to Lincourt Junior High was I enlisted in their the part of the summer school for phys ed. And my uncle was the gym coach at Lincourt Junior High School, and that's what he set up every summer. And when I was able to walk, maybe not then, but maybe 8 or 9 years old, Mom used to drive me down there before I used to be able to take my bike. In the summer, I stayed with Lincourt Junior High School rec league for most of the time, and all the guys were all there too. We all did the same thing together in Lincourt.
Speaking here with Papa Joe on the nation's pastime and being a dad and bringing it all together in this very special wake-up call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. BJ Zaccaro, whose son Bryce Zaccaro I have gotten to know well over the last few months here, is a pitcher for Cicero North Syracuse, the same place that Pat Corbin came from, who has pitched for my Diamondbacks and pitched for the Yankees and so on and so forth. BJ said, my dad coached Little League, volunteered, helped with the fields, which I vividly remember. I said, Pop, why are you out in the rain raking the field? He said, if you want to play, this is what it takes to make that happen for you guys. So when my son started playing, I followed in his footsteps, volunteered with North Syracuse Little League, coached, concession stand duty, field maintenance. It came full circle last fall when Bryce coached a 10U fall ball team. We are all products of our environment, good and bad. God bless Paisan, is what he had to say.
I like that, Paisan. I like that. Those are kind words. I like that.
Papa Joe here this morning talking with us about the beauty of this nation's pastime and being a dad and celebrating Father's Day, which to me is every day. PJ, favorite Major League Baseball player growing up?
Oh, that's an easy question. That's an easy Mickey Mantle.
Okay.
Mickey Mantle. I read when Mickey Mantle first was brought up to the Yankees, he was nothing but a snot-nosed kid, maybe 19, 20 years old, and he had such an amazing talent that what we were watching we had never really seen before. We haven't seen what we call a five-tool player, where you can hit for average, RBIs, stealing bases, and so on. You got 5 categories that you needed to excel in if you wanted to be a 5-tool player. And he when I heard that 5-tool player, I said, well, hell, that's Mickey Mantle. And it was. And I used to, oh, God, Dan, we used to love to listen to the Yankees. And I would go get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or go to the bathroom and stuff like that. If he wasn't up to the plate, if he was up to the plate, I'd listen to him. He was an extraordinary character, a hard-nosed guy. He lived hard, too. Him and Billy Martin used to do some things together. Actually, I learned to switch hit by watching watching Mickey Mantle. I certainly did. And when we were playing our Sandlot game over there and off of Delmar Place, we had a right field and a left field. Now, the right field line was much smaller than the left field line, make-believe home run areas. Yeah. It was a little road. And I was practicing left-handed with my buddy at home up against the wall. I mean, I asked the guy, I said, "You guys mind if I hit left-handed?" No, go ahead, hit. But, whoever you got. There's a home run field over there. It's about 150 feet away, You hit a home run over the, not on it, over it. To get up, hit a home run over the road, hit the home run. So I get up there and I'm shaking my bat, and I'm looking good. First ball, nailed it. Gone. Home run for me, left-handed. I remember that one. And the guys are all yelling at me. You can't do that. We think you're not fair. You got to hit right-handed because right-handed is 250 feet, not 150 feet. All right, But I still played left-handed and right-handed. When I was coaching Joe when he was we won, he also started switch hitting, but never he didn't pursue it. He just stayed with his right hand. Actually he's more left-handed than right-handed, and he switch hit a lot. But when he grew up, he just stayed with the right hand.
And like you said, Mickey Mantle taught you how to switch hit and all of that. I mean, that obviously has a big effect on you and a big effect on your game. You tried to emulate him. Was there any other player you tried to emulate, or was it always Mickey?
Well, Mickey was a position player, and he was the one. None of us were pitchers. We didn't want to do that. All we want to do is hit balls, hit home runs. So we watched Duke Snyder and Gil Hodges from the Dodgers, Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale from the Dodgers. These guys. We talked about these guys all the time in the summer when we were messing around. Drysdale at the plate, Koufax at the plate. The other player that I was enamored by beside Mickey Mantle was Sandy Koufax. And I didn't know much about pitching because I wasn't a pitcher, and I didn't know how to grip the ball and this other kind of things. And so some of the old time players, the pitchers, I used to start watching. I said, "Those guys are good, man. They're tough to hit. Good fastball, curveballs, and things." Well, watching Sandy Koufax was like watching an alien pitch. I mean, he was so much better than the rest of the league. I mean, he was incredible. He didn't play for very long. He's an All-American. Daniel. My pot sometimes goes to my head, Yeah, Mary's laughing at me now. Hall of Famer, that's right, Mary. Thank you.
What would you do without Mary T? She's your fact checker. She's the love of your life.
Well, she was, when she was growing up in Milwaukee, she had the Milwaukee Braves. She had a grape. That's where all my brother-in-laws used to hang out.
Yeah.
At the old county stadium in Milwaukee. But anyway. Go ahead.
No, but you were talking about Sandy Koufax and how he wasn't around for a long time, but that was another guy that meant a lot to you.
He wound up staying with baseball a little bit, and to this day, Daniel, he's been Dodger man his whole life. I'm sure he's getting some stipend from them. To this day, he still comes to spring training with the Dodger pitchers. And if you want to see some awe on some kids' faces, when they walk into a little circle, and all of a sudden you see this gray-haired guy come out of the stand, he's astute-looking, good, solid, good-looking guy, tan face, white hair, and he walks up to these guys and says, "Hey, guys, what's up?" And they would say, "Well, we're waiting for some Dodger pitchers to help us with some deliveries." And he says, "Well, I can do that." He says, "I'm Sandy Koufax." And of course, the guys drop their jaw. You don't run into Sandy Koufax in Los Angeles, but he's there every year working with the pitchers for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he's still alive, and he looks great. Of course, he was so good he could have pitched Daniel into his mid-50s, but he was like a Barry Sanders guy for football. He didn't want to play anymore. He didn't want to play. He didn't want to hurt himself. He didn't want to blow his arm out. He didn't want to blow his elbow out. He says, "I had enough. I've won enough. I pitched 7 no-hitters. I'm going to go in the Hall of Fame. That's enough for me." That's what he did. And that's how I admired him so much for standing up and doing what he did. Mickey Mantle, unfortunately for him, Mickey Mantle had a lot of physical problems. but he brought a lot of stuff on himself. He wasn't near the straight-laced guy that Sandy Koufax was. I mean, Mickey Randall drank. He drank hard. He smoked hard. And he played ball hard. And he didn't last because he really abused his body, unfortunately. And his body broke down, and frankly, that's what killed him.
And we look back on, Mickey Mantle's career and Sandy Koufax and all that, and you bring up these, names that obviously mean a lot to the world of baseball and just the beauty of that and, just who they, they're going to live on forever. Mickey Mantle, his last baseball card, I have his last baseball card, and it's of him just kind of standing there, looking up a little bit with a smirk on his face. And, it's just to think back on that. And, was that your favorite team? I know you talk about Mickey Mantle. Were the Yankees always your favorite?
Absolutely. No, I can't get by the Yankees. The Yankees were and everyone else just about in our neighborhood. But we had such good players. There were Cleve Boyer, third baseman, and Billy Martin was a second baseman. Shortstop was... I can't remember his name. But anyway, we grew up with those guys and we knew their names. And when we would play our Sandlot games, we would pretend we were a guy. So if I was going to get up and hit right-handed, I would say Mickey Mantle coming to the plate hitting right-handed. Yeah. That's how we'd have fun. And Anne Marie, we used to drive Anne Marie crazy because we would have to come down and get something to eat. And we would dive into her refrigerator and come up with some sandwiches, turn right around and go back up to the Sandlot.
Yeah, and you talk about my grandma, and obviously, your Aunt Marie, because your mom being my grandma's sister, Aunt Dorothy. What are your fondest memories from my grandma's house?
Oh, Daniel! Anytime we used to come over, whenever we weren't playing baseball or basketball or doing something, we were always doing something. Well, Aunt Marie had a nice little room down in her cellar. We used to go down there and listen to records and drink pops and things like that. Most of the time, Aunt Marie was just a pit stop for us because we would be flying all over the place. We'd be going to the Sandlot, Lincourt, junior high school, and back to Marie's and all around and everything. We all had bicycles, and if the bicycles broke, we'd fix them. We had a flat tire, we'd throw the guy on top of our handlebar, go get the flat tire fixed, come back, put it on, and we go on. You get a lot of bald tires when you're my age, that age, riding a bicycle.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Back in the day, that's what you did. You rode your bike to the park. You just threw your bike on the ground. You played baseball. You went, like you said, and got a sandwich. Got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and ate it quick, and then came right back to playing the game itself. So it's just such a beautiful, again, it's having your own Sandlot memories essentially, and going back and to those times and that nostalgia, really beautiful and really cool thing, and I love that we get to celebrate that this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So there's plenty more coming up with Papa Joe, including a fan question, which was an awesome question that came to us yesterday. And as we were promoting that PJ was going to be on talking about the nation's pastime and being a dad. So we'll talk about that and so much more. We'll get your question in. If you have other questions, send them our way. PJ from the Sunshine State talking about the nation's pastime and being a father in this Father's Day special on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here, and we thank you so much for hanging out here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and for all that you do to be a part of the show. We truly, truly appreciate it, and appreciate your support for people like Papa Joe, who truly are the difference in this world.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. There's something to be said about the conversations that you have when you are hanging out with Papa Joe and MT off the air, on the air. So, you know, they say that a big sin in radio is having dead air, but, you know, you had dead air for a second because I was talking to Miss Mary T and PJ off the air here and having some fun with it. So before we go any further, you know, we're celebrating Father's Day in the nation's pastime, but I can't be remiss on Mother's Day and the other mom in my life. So let me give a shout out to Mary T and PJ if she's still there for a second. I'd love to talk to her for a second. So what's up, MT?
On the show.
Well, there's always something up at this household. Yeah, we're getting ready for Joe's. We're getting ready for Papa Joe's birthday and Father's Day celebration with young Joey.
Yeah.
And his fiance and soon to be daughter and family. So we're excited. We're excited about that.
You know, and Mary, you said something a couple of years ago, and I mentioned it to PJ this morning, that, you know, I asked you, how do you make it, you know, after so many years, you know, what makes a good marriage? And I don't know if you remember what you said to me.
I remember.
Okay, and so, I mean, I guess through your words, say it, because I you know, I say it on the show, but I'd love for people that haven't heard it to hear it from you.
Well, I think the key to a strong, lasting marriage is praying together. It gives you incredible strength and grace in the trials that you might face. Also, your tribulations. You know, the good things.
Yeah.
Because you have to be thankful for those. And I know that that's been the key to my marriage to Papa Joe, because he's a man of faith and I'm a woman of faith, and praying together keeps you together. So I know you believe that. And I think a lot of people do. Sometimes they don't want to say it out loud, but I'm not afraid to say that, because I really think that's such a critical link in a successful marriage.
And I think it's a beautiful thing. And when you said that to me such a long time ago, when you had stated that to me, I was in the opposite of situations, and now today, I have that every day. I have that prayer with somebody, and it's such a beautiful thing. But I never forgot you said that, and it's one of the things that I actually said to her about this. And even though she hasn't met, you guys yet in person and whatnot, she brings it up, and says like, hey, would you ever ask the advice or go to Papa Joe and Mary about stuff because of, them valuing prayer and valuing all of that. So I want you to know that you're a North Star and a beacon of hope, because what you said to me a while back stuck with me so much so that it took me away from certain people and obviously helps me to appreciate where I am today. So seeing both sides of the spectrum, I never lost the fact that you said those words, and I value it so deeply, being with somebody that prays with you. And so, I really can't thank you enough for that, because that has become a cornerstone of what I value, and it came from that conversation that you had here with me on the show.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'm glad that it made a difference, but I really believe that, and I see it in my family members as well, because we were raised as very devout Catholics. My parents were both extremely Catholic, and we all prayed together, and it stuck with me. So it's a key component in a successful marriage.
Yeah.
So,
and you speak a lot of truth, MT, and you've seen me through the trenches, and I never forgot, the important things you say, but that above all things. So I want to thank you. As I said, Father's Day is every day, so is Mother's Day. So thank you for being another mom to me. Thank you for my Cinnamon Toast Crunch with raisins and raspberries. And and thank you for all the movies and all that. What'd you say?
I always have a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch in my pantry.
Yeah.
That's awful stuff.
No,
That's awful stuff.
Oh.
Jeez.
Listen,
Right.
me and Sparky got to enjoy that together, so.
Cool.
All right, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, Mary. I love you.
Love you too.
So that coming from MT and Papa Joe throwing that shade at Cinnamon Toast Crunch. How dare thee do such on my show? You're blasphemy. But yeah, PJ and I, and Mary T have so many wonderful times, Papa Joe. And I think that we're at a point right now where I need to come over for some Sunday sauce. Do you think we've reached the time period where I need to come back down to Florida?
You're ready anytime, bud. Anytime. We still have our Sunday sauce every Sunday, and facsimiles of it.
And that's the thing is I've had my own Sunday sauce, and I actually made it for the lady, and I made her a angel hair with seasoned shrimp and peppers and mushrooms with my homemade sauce.
Oh, very good, very good. I'd like that.
Yeah, so it's very good and very tasty and great for a baseball game. PJ, getting back to it, what was your favorite World Series and why?
Oh, boy. There were so many series between the Dodgers and the Yankees. The rest of the country really didn't even factor into it. I mean, if you played baseball in the major leagues, you played baseball, if you wanted to win, either the Dodgers or the Yankees. Even the Giants a little, but the Dodgers, they had so many good players. Duke Snyder, Gil Hodges, Pee Wee Reese, and so many guys that as an impressionable young person growing up, and I was in my early teens, and I would listen to these guys. I said, "Geez, these guys are bigger than life." And frankly, they were. When you were a ball player in New York City, you got treated like a king. Everywhere you went, you were recognized on the street. You were recognized in the grocery store, at the pharmacy. You were recognized everywhere. And you know what? If you wanted an autograph, they would do it for you. Stop in the middle of the road and give you an autograph. So I do miss those days, and I do miss. I don't much care for the National League and American League setup. You probably heard me that before, and I'll probably get into that a little bit. But I don't like the way the whole situation came about, where the National League and American League had to wind up with two different ways of playing baseball.
Yeah.
And if you want me to explain that, I will. Unless your listener has question for me.
I want to hold on to that for next week's show because it's a big discussion that we have started in talking about the Brooklyn Dodgers as well as the New York Giants and the National League versus the American League and how things are different. Then I definitely want to have that discussion. Shout out to Grandma Joyce on Long Island because she's going to love that one. So we will hold on to that, but I love that you brought it up. And we'll be doing that next week. So a little spoiler, there you go, folks. A little foreshadowing of what's to come, a little feeler, a little taste, a little teaser trailer for that. Make sure you come back every Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Call inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios to hear from Papa Joe on Facebook, YouTube, MixLR, as well as wakeupcalldt.com. And the backslashes for all of them is wakeupcalldt. So if you're on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.com. PJ and I will talk about that next week. Papa Joe, first game that you remember bringing Joe to?
Okay, the first professional game, when Joe's mom and I left Florida to go take some jobs in the Northeast, of course, I'm thinking to myself, God, I'm going back to New England. I'm going back to New York. I'm going back to the places I grew up. But this is going to be great. No, Daniel, I forgot again.
It's okay. You're talking about the first game that you brought Joe to.
Yeah, we were in New Hampshire, and I said, you know what, Pat? I said, let's throw Joe in the car. Early on a Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday, whenever it was. I can't remember. It was probably a weekday because I would take those off easy enough. And we would drive to Boston because it was closer. I was in Concord, New Hampshire, and you drive to Boston. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes away. And you park and you go inside. You look at the big Fenway Park fence. Oh, God, is that an ugly looking thing? But you can see how small the field is compared to other fields that have actually the home run gaps in them. They didn't have anything. So, I forgot again, Daniel.
It's okay, just talking about the baseball game that you brought Joe to.
Okay. Yeah, he was only 4 years old. And we got in, had a lot of fun. After about the third inning, he's falling asleep.
Yeah.
And I tried to wake him up and we're watching the games, and he's not interested at all. I want to run around, He falls asleep again. So anyway, that was the very first game that I brought him to. The second game that I brought him to was also in Boston when I was in New York at a time, several years later, and Joe was a little bit older. And we would go to Fenway Park again, do the same thing. This time, he and I went. His mom stayed home, and we had a ball. We stayed out all day, drove all over New York City. Went to the ball game, 8 at night. He was exhausted. Fell asleep on the way home in the car. But those are the days that I remember with him. And at least I know that he learned the game, I thought, the right way because I was a fundamental kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't like the way they play baseball these days, and I don't even want to get into that. That's a whole other subject. These guys run around with gold chains on their neck, gold chains on their wrist. They got padding all over. They look like a hockey player, for Christ's sake. So.
And we could talk about all of that. We could talk about bat flips and gold chains and all those things coming up here as obviously some people have thoughts about that on the game. Father or son pastime going to a baseball game. How important was it for you to bring Joe to a baseball game?
Well, as I stated earlier, I wasn't that close to my dad, and he didn't care about sports at all.
Yeah.
The one thing he did for me, thankfully, is he built a basketball rim for me in my driveway. I could shoot some buckets. It's extremely important because I know that the values that he got back then, he's keeping. And when I was coaching him through his Little League and Senior Little League and American Legion or whatever else, freshman ball, JV ball, I was with him most of the time. And he he really got into the game. Really, he was really a good player. He was, for a number of years, he was a good player. And then he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. Well, that's that's what happens with kids. There's too many things to look at out there now, and there's too many ways for them to enjoy themselves. And frankly, these kids these days don't want to sit around for 3 hours watching grass grow, watching a baseball game. These kids don't have it. These kids want to dribble a basketball, or they want to do that, they want to do this. They want things given to them instead of working hard for them.
Yeah. And that's the thing is there's some kids that work really hard toward what they want, and there's some people that don't in every generation, and it's sad to see it because baseball is such a beautiful game. Going to that, why do you love baseball? What makes you love baseball?
There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of strategies, and people at home don't understand that. When I'm watching a game, hey, Daniel, the best thing that Mary did was get this MLE baseball thing for me. Every day I'm watching a game somewhere, no matter where it is in the country. I'm watching a game, and that's what I was so enamored with the game that I would teach Joe along the way when he was a kid. And now that we're watching baseball together, he's right there with me coaching. So I don't know if he's going to have a son, but we're going to have a little granddaughter, and I'm not sure she's going to be a softball player. So I don't know if they're going to have a child or not, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I enjoyed my time growing up with Joe, with the baseball and everything. And when we moved down here, we went to, they used to call it Jacksonville. There was a different name for them. Now they're called the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. That's the name of that's the name of the team.
Yeah.
And then we follow them, and we like to catch a couple of games up there. Beautiful stadium, small stadium, but it's fun. I mean, you get 2,000-3,000 people are watching good baseball.
And that's the thing is the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp is actually located. Their stadium is located right near the Jacksonville Jaguars TIAA Bank Field. So when I come through, I remember looking at it going, that can't be a real name. You can't, it's actually the Jumbo Shrimp. And I'm thinking in my head, instead of serving hot dogs and hamburgers, they need to serve shrimp cocktails and jumbo and have actual jumbo shrimp is what I think they should do. And I think it should be $5. That's what it should be. The Jumbo Shrimp. But shout out to the Jumbo Shrimp of Jacksonville. I hope they're doing well. I hope that the Jaguars win more games than the Jumbo Shrimp. I know that they're baseball and football, but let me tell you like this. If the Jacksonville Jaguars had an 80-game season, last year they would have gone 1-79. So what I'm trying to say is I hope that that on the water of Jacksonville, that there's not just one good team, but there's more than one. And I hope that not only can shrimp swim, but I hope the Jaguars can stay afloat as well. Would that be? Thank you. Who are your 5 favorite players to watch right now, PJ?
Right now?
Yeah.
Of course, the best player in baseball, and has been for the last 9 years, is Mike Trout. And as I turn to my right, I see my right Mike Trout little bobblehead that I got on my counter here next to me. He is the one and only player that I have seen come through baseball in the years that I've been watching it that is a true Mickey Mantle transcendent. The only thing that he does, Mickey Mantle did that Mike Trout doesn't do is switch hit. Mike Trout is a right-handed hitter. Mike Trout, by the time he's 30 years old, Daniel, is already compiled enough statistics to go in the Hall of Fame. That's how good he is, and that's how good he is on the field. Now that I have MLB that MP got for me, I catch him everywhere. Of course, he's hurt now, which pissed me off. But I'm watching it. Angel, I watched him last night. This kid, Tony, the Japanese kid they got. If you haven't seen this kid play, if the rest of the country hasn't seen this kid play, they need to do it because you're going to forget Mickey Mantle after watching this kid play. He's unbelievable. He's the best player that I've seen come through the league probably 10 and 15 years.
Okay.
So what makes him remarkable is that he pitches and plays on defense. You don't see that anymore. You don't see two-way players anymore. This kid throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, a nasty-ass 80-mile-an-hour sinker that punches guys out, 10 strikeouts in 9 innings. He's amazing. Not only that, he's second in the league in home runs with, I think, 18 or 19. He's really holding the Angels together until Trout can come back. The other players I watch in the league, I like Mookie Betts. I think he's an excellent player. Watched him for years playing with Boston. Got to watch a lot of Boston games. Mookie Betts is another five-tool player that does them all well. He's in the National League. Mike Trout's in the American League. Another player I like to watch is a shortstop from San Francisco called Brandon Crawford. Been around a long time. He's in his early 30s. He's had one of his better years now than in recent history.
Yeah.
Brandon Crawford is the kind of player that can play shortstop, go deep in the hole, I mean deep in the hole, and throw a guy out at first base. That's when you know you have a quarterback, when you have a hot shot like that. So two other players that I have to come up with, just for longevity's sake, I want to say Clayton Kershaw because he's been with the Dodgers forever.
Okay.
He's going to retire the Dodgers forever. He's probably the best left-hander in baseball. And let me tell you, if he wants to talk to Sandy Koufax, he picks up the phone and talks to him.
Yeah.
That's how close he is to him. I got one more player, one more probably a pitcher. And this is a younger guy, and he's really come a long way early in his career. Now he's unhittable. His name is Jacob DeGrom. He's from the Mets. He's now compiled the lowest ERA of the first 10 games played in the history of the game. Right now, his ERA is .51. That's a half a run a game, and he's pitching. He's unhittable. He's won the Cy Young Award in the National League twice. If he stays healthy, which he didn't, I was watching him last night. I watched the first 3 innings. He strikes out 8 of the 9 guys. And all of a sudden, he's shaking his arm after his third out. I don't want to hear that or see that. So he goes right in the dugout, and I knew what was happening because I knew he tweaked something. He goes right in the dugout, walks right down into the clubhouse. Didn't see him again. They took him out of the game because he got hurt again. So you got those 5 players that I enjoy watching.
Yeah, and I think that that's awesome. And I knew Mike Trout was in there, and I wanted to hear like who else you had and what else was going on, and a lot of. And I like that you go around the league and you have different players in different places. And Jacob, what you just brought up with what he's capable of doing, and I hear about him all the time because I'm surrounded by Mets fans on Long Island. So I definitely hear about that, and look forward to seeing his career grow and blossom and be good. And Clayton Kershaw, I mean, you bring up a guy who's been around, for a minute, and the fact that he's just found his longevity, which is a beautiful thing. So before we get to the fan question, here with Papa Joe. Here with us every single Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time minimally. We usually go a few minutes after as we are. We're inside the Cafe Kubal studios, and we're talking about the nation's pastime and having an early Father's Day special and being a dad and how being a dad and connecting to baseball and having that all kind of come together in this beautiful kind of Sandlot story that PJ is telling us today so perfectly. Who from the baseball world would you eat dinner with that's passed away? So if somebody could come back that's passed on, who would you eat dinner with and why?
Oh, gosh, Daniel. Well, it would probably be Lou Gehrig.
Okay.
Mainly because he was one of the 5 best baseball players of all time. And when you hear about the Yankees and Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin and all these guys, they're all lumped into this deal with them. And oh, Daniel, who's I say that?
You were talking just now. You were bringing up different things about guys that had been lumped in together, and you were talking about Lou Gehrig.
Oh yeah, the guy that I would eat dinner with.
Yeah.
Of course, he had ALS, which is the Lou Gehrig disease.
Yeah.
And I watched him play for many years, obviously. And I think the first time I cried when I was watching a television was when Lou Gehrig made an announcement that he's not going to be able to play baseball anymore because he's got a disease called ALS. And at that time, he was still playing, but at the end of that season, he wasn't playing anymore because he couldn't. And, subsequently, he passed away. And I would love to just question him about everything on the ball field, about I have a serious debilitating injury too, but not like him. I mean, I don't have ALS. I got neuropathy. He's got the real deal. And, how did he, I would love to ask him, how did he suck up enough energy to play the game and play the game at a high level before he died? I mean, I would love to question him.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Lou Gehrig and obviously, Jimmer Sikowski here in the community and work with Jimmer with Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay has Lou Gehrig's disease as well and is fighting it. And I know that you and Mary are big on prayer, so I ask that you pray for him and his loved ones and that there is a cure and that they can find a way to live with this. He said that his goal is to slow down the evolution of this virus within him, or this disease within him, to slow it down to the point where he can find a true viable cure or a viable way to live with it in some way, shape, or form. One of the kindest people, and you know that he means a lot to me. I've talked to you about him for a long time now, so I find it interesting you bring up Lou Gehrig, and I appreciate if you could say a prayer for him as well.
Of course we will. Of course.
So that being said, PJ, before we get to the final piece here, who from baseball would you eat dinner with that's alive right now?
Oh, that's Mike Trout. There's no doubt about that. Mike Trout is an interesting character. He was a whodunit in baseball when he was growing up. When he was a kid, he played as an eighth grader on a high school baseball team and led the team in hitting. Mike Trout, for being 6'3", 225 pounds, has the 5 tools that I described earlier, and he is such a down-home, really level-headed guy. He's not one of these phony guys that steps on the field, got his gloves hanging out of his pocket, got his jewelry hanging from his neck. He's got this, he's got that. I don't like to look at ball players like that. I want to see the game played, but I don't like some of these ball players where they look. Mike Trout was a hero in his community when he was 11 years old because he was such a formidable baseball player. And he knew that by the time he was going to be 18 years old, he was going to be playing in the major league. He wasn't going to go to college. And he spent 1 year in the minors, came right up, and the rest is history. And here we are chasing a person who's got a chance to break Babe Ruth's home run record if he stays healthy. But I'm going to watch him very closely.
Yeah,
Babe Ruth's record, not Barry Bonds' record. I don't recognize Barry Bonds as a baseball player.
Yeah, I don't recognize Barry Bonds as the home run leader either. I recognize Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth. So with that, we get to our fan question brought to us by Greg, your big time fan that loves tuning in every week to you, Mr. Greg Eckert. He asked the question, with the countless number of father-son duos that have played in Major League Baseball, what duo or duos of father and son are your favorites?
Oh, gosh. You got the Bichette kid that's playing now in Toronto, and his father played for the Texas Rangers for years. And you got the Guerrera kid, whose father played in the American League for years. Those two kids play on the same team. They're only 21, 22 years old. These kids are fascinating. They're well spoken, and Guerrera speaks English, for crying out loud. Half of these kids don't speak English. Here's a quote for you. 73% of the major league managers have to speak English, have to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
How about that? Now, I'm looking at some of these guys. I want to see. I'm trying to understand the minority effect of Major League Baseball, because it's really thrown me for a loop. Because it seems like the Caribbean kids have been playing baseball at a young level too for a number of years, and they are now taking over the spot that the white players had for many years at baseball. because they played baseball and they got drafted and played baseball. The black kids wanted to play basketball, and there you are. And that's where we are right now.
And, I think the diversity is good, and it's obviously led to some beauty all throughout this game and other games and whatnot. And Greg said Biggio as well.
Yeah, Biggio, right. Biggio and Bichette. Really. And it's just how these kids, these kids grew up as what we call clubhouse brats. They would be, when their dads were playing and the kids were with them, one kid would be a bat boy. And he would sit among the players. He'd go get the bat. He'd have to go to first base to get the padding off the player that just walked and run all the way back to the clubhouse. So it was a big job for a kid like that. And that's fun. And those kids grew up all around baseball. That's what they did. Look at Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone, the manager of the Yankees. His father and his grandfather both played professional baseball. And all three of them are excellent baseball players. So there you go with some parents.
Yeah, and it's an awesome thing to, look at that and look at those pieces and whatnot. PJ, you've been awesome to bring us so much today in this Father's Day special on the nation's pastime and being a dad, and really helping us to live through your eyes and live through, just the evolution of baseball and the changes in baseball and the beauty of baseball from when you were a kid to now, to have seen so much with the game and so much beauty of it, and to give that to your son and something that you didn't have given to you that you felt like you wanted to give to your son. Before I let you go, PJ, I will let you ask me a couple questions here. In the spirit of baseball and in the spirit of fairness, we have gotten to talk so much about, your connection to it and what it means to you. So I'm going to let you ask me a couple questions. You can ask me one or two or three, whatever you want to do, but I'm going to let you ask me a couple.
Did Uncle Tommy play catch with you?
I'm sure my grandfather probably did at some point, but he was with me wherever I was, whatever I was doing. I remember I was in the backyard of my house as a kid, and I think I was 3, and I don't know if I was playing catch or what I was doing. I had a shovel. I think I had a shovel, my grandfather had it, and there was a snake in my backyard. There was a garter snake in the backyard, and I'm in my diaper, like, walking around my backyard, and the snake came up to me and looked at me eye to eye, and my grandfather came over with a plastic shovel and took a swipe at it, and not metal, with a plastic shovel, he cut the snake in half right in front of me.
That's good. Uncle Tommy.
Yeah. So what else you got for me?
Okay. Which team do you want to see go to the World Series this year?
To be honest with you, and I'm not saying this because I know people connected to it, I just think it would be beautiful. I would love to, it doesn't hurt that I have people that I know would want to go to the games and whatnot. I would love to see the Mets go to the World Series. I really would. And,
you asked me a question years a little while ago what my favorite team was. I don't think I answered that quite in depth that I wanted to.
Okay.
The team that really interested us, Joe and I both, was because Joe grew up rooting for the Mets when he was a kid, and when Dwight Gooden was on there. I think the '86 Mets, when they won the World Series, was the most fun time that we had watching baseball together. And Joe loved it. He loved all the guys, Gary Carter and all these guys that played for the Mets, and so we still talk about the Mets. And they still got good pitching. They still play good baseball. So there you are.
All right. I love it. I love it going with the Mets. So, and they do play. They're doing very well right now and making it happen. So shout out to the Mets. I definitely want to get to Citi Field for a game. So with that being said, Papa Joe joining us here every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Father's Day special on the nation's pastime, being a dad and bringing it all together. PJ, you helped us really live in the world of baseball and in such a nostalgic way that I believe that this is kind of like what I would call the Sandlot episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, an ode to your Sandlot and to what you've done. This is such a cool thing, and it's a little time capsule, and I'm going to keep this with me forever. So with that being said, I want to thank you for being a part of the show. I want to thank Mary T for being a part of the show. a happy early Father's Day to you being a dad in my life, and obviously a very happy birthday to you, PJ. So I honestly, this is an instant classic. This is one of those things that I can, keep forever. This is such a beautiful thing, and I really hope that people listen to this continuously throughout time with their kids and with the people that they love and with their dads and their moms and, whatever. I really honestly feel like you brought so much beauty to today's show, and I want to say thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Daniel, and I want to thank your listeners for being patient with me with my memory. I mean, it's part of my condition, and I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and you've done an incredible job, PJ. So stay safe, stay well. I'm always praying for you and Mary T and Joe and everybody, Kayla and Lily, and I'm even praying for Boom Boom, for goodness sakes. So, but I look forward to talking with you soon, and God bless, and be well, okay?
Thank you, Daniel. Bye-bye.
Take care. And coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We're going to take a quick step aside for a fast break inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Next up in Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin'? Dave Pasiak. From the field to the court, NBA playoffs. All about that second round, Kawhi, Chris Paul, the Suns sweeping, Philadelphia's debacle recently here. We got a lot to talk about with Mr. Pasiak. We're going to do it right after this, where sports meets that thing called life. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they're always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare it to order in the kitchen. We hand butter chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
There is a gentleman here on today's broadcast that I like to refer to as Dave Pasiak, and he is a fantastic guest that we have here on the show all the time. I love having him on the show. We always have a great time. I feel really bad today because I will be serving as Dave Pasiak's therapist, and I will be serving as your broadcaster for the morning. The Philadelphia 76ers have had a tough last couple of games. They've come under scrutiny. Doc Rivers has come under scrutiny, and we come here this morning to discuss all of that. So, if anybody would like to send Dave a nice message, maybe a heartfelt letter of some sort, maybe some flowers, maybe some chocolates, whatever can help him feel better, just make sure that they don't come from Atlanta. Dave will not be supporting anything in Atlanta until this series is over. So, with that being said, I proudly bring in Mr. Pasiak to the show and welcome him here. We're talking about the 2021 NBA playoffs. We do it with Dave all throughout the playoffs here. We love having Dave on all year round. And, of course, we've had him on pretty much every single week here since before the playoffs started all the way through. And we'll continue to do that because I don't really need an excuse to have Dave on. But if the NBA playoffs are my excuse, well, then so be it. Inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, and on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and now their newest location, which is their first ever drive-through location with indoor seating and outdoor seating on Sweetheart Corners, corner of Route 11 and Taft Road. So make sure you make your way over to the newest location and the first ever drive-through for Cafe Kubal. And just so you know, inside of my Like a Boss cup, I have my Cafe Kubal. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's all up. It's all up in there. I have my caramel chai inside of this from Cafe Kubal this morning because I like to have a little pep in my step when I'm hanging out in the Cafe Kubal studios. So, with that being said, let's bring on DP Dave Pasiak. Dave, I will be charging for this hour because I know that there's some therapy session that will be had. So you can Venmo me after, but I always appreciate having you here. How you doing?
Well, I've been better. been a tough last couple games for Sixers fans, I'll tell you that. So there's no words that can explain that collapse last night. That was one of the worst losses I've seen a team take in an NBA playoff situation in recent memory. That was, it was bad enough. I mean, Al writes that series should be over. Yeah. Philly was the better team, like, say, 6 halves out of 8 in the first 4 games, yet it was 2-2, and then they were the better team for 3 quarters out of 4 last night, and now they're down 3-2. And and you could kind of, when Atlanta got it down to 6 or 8, you could see Philly really getting tight last night, and it was, even like the start of the second half, like Philly was up 22 at half, I think.
Yeah,
they should have pushed that to 30, but they were really sloppy at the start of the second half, and turned the ball over a bunch of times, didn't cash in on some opportunities, and then the second unit, who was really good in the first half, was horrible last night, and that's really when Atlanta got back in the game, and all of a sudden Philly kind of had to come back to the first unit earlier than they normally would, and it was just one thing led to another, and just bad loss, and now like you got to feel like Atlanta's in the driver's seat, unfortunately.
Yeah, and there was Atlanta was down by 18 at the start of the fourth quarter, and they went on a 9-2 run to cut that in half. Bring me into the start of the fourth quarter and what the heck was going on through your eyes that you were seeing as a longtime coach and analyst and enthusiast of the game. Down by 18 and then going on a 9-2 run. Just what you saw there. I mean, we legitimately started the fourth quarter, the final 12 minutes of this game. Atlanta was down by almost 20 points, and they just cracked away at this thing. And, looking back at it statistically in the studio here this morning, I can understand why this makes you want to throw up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was even worse than that. It was 24 with about 2 minutes to go in the third. So, it was, Philly just got completely away from, good ball movement. And I mean, usually their second unit is obviously not as talented as their first unit, but they're usually pretty good with sharing the ball and making the extra pass. And, none of that was there in the second half. And that's really where, in Atlanta, I mean, they're, in a sense, they're playing with house money. Nobody, I think everybody views them as the fourth best team out of four, the teams that are left in the East, and nobody's expecting them to go to the NBA Finals. So they're playing loose, and some shots started going. I mean, Lou Williams, I thought, really was the catalyst for them last night. He got a hot hand in the second half and was probably as responsible as anybody for bringing them back in the game. I thought he was terrific. And the one thing that Atlanta did, which they haven't done much this season or in this series, is when Lou got going, they played Williams and Trae Young together, which is something they haven't done very much of previously, and that turned out to be really effective for Atlanta last night.
Yeah, and seeing this, I mean, and the other part of it too, the final shot to be made with 0.1 seconds left, Seth Curry hitting the 16-foot jumper. And just, trying to do whatever they could at the end of this game to do anything and do something. You don't have Steph Curry, but you have Seth Curry. I mean, I got to see him come through Summer League and whatnot. What can you say about the Seth Curry factor, first and foremost? And then, secondly, you mentioned Trae Young. How much do you... I know that's as a analyst that you respect players, but how much do you want Trae Young to just retire from basketball right now?
I don't say I want him to retire from basketball. I give him credit. He's played well. For me, he's a tough watch. He's certainly not as good as James Harden, but it's a little bit like watching James Harden in that.
Okay.
Some of the things that he does, he's he and Harden have kind of cracked the code a little bit, and with some of the fouls they draw and whatnot. And if you saw in the media, I think the NBA is getting fed up with it. It's on the list of things for their rules committee to address in the off season, is like fouls that are being drawn on things that are not natural shooting moves. So I think you're going to see, it's not going to change anything this year, but I think you're going to see the NBA like fouls that are being drawn on things that are not natural shooting moves. So I think you're going to see, it's not going to change anything this year, leading to a shot and whatnot. So, he's a little frustrating to watch in that respect. He's getting all the credit for Atlanta, but it really... like I said, Lou Williams last night and Collins has been great the last couple of games for them. Earlier in the series, Herter was really good. So, and Bogdanovic has been really good at times in the series. So, they've gotten it from a bunch of different places. So, I don't have the number right in front of me from last night, but prior to last night, the Hawks plus minus was actually better when Trae Young wasn't in the game. So, I think he's their catalyst, but I think other guys have really played well for Atlanta. Give them credit.
Yeah, and the thing is, this Atlanta Hawks team, like you said, they're playing with house money because nobody has any expectation. They have an expectation of themselves, and the city of Atlanta has an expectation. And shout out to Atlanta, because I have worked in some way, shape, or form with Coca-Cola, Carvel, and Chick-fil-A. So shout out to Atlanta and to their awesome the aquarium that they have down there, which is right by the arena, which is really cool. But when you look at this Atlanta team, you mentioned some of these guys and whatnot. You're a basketball coach. You have coached for a very long time. You have love for this game. This game has been a part of your life forever and a day. So does Atlanta look for real, or are you still scratching your head? When you see this Atlanta Hawks team as a basketball coach and as an analyst and just like a student of the game, what does Atlanta look like to you?
Well, I think they look like they're like a young team on the rise. I would not put them in the upper echelon of the NBA, but I would put them in that next tier of good teams,
Okay.
Teams that are, maybe a notch below. If you look at the, just analyze the series and analyze the play, really, Philly should have won that series by now 4-1. I mean, the series should be over and they should be on to the next round. And as it is now, I mean, Atlanta has put themselves in the driver's seat because they've managed to steal the last couple of games. And, I think that, there's certainly a team on there. It'll be interesting. McMillan is still an interim coach, which baffles me why they haven't made him, unless there's, unless he's really not interested in being the coach long term, which I would find hard to believe. But, they seem like with the young talent that they have and everything, and they seem like a team that's headed in the right direction, and I mean, could very well be right in the mix for the next several years.
Yeah, and the Atlanta Hawks, I mean, I remember the days of Dikembe Mutombo and just watching them in the Hawks jerseys that had a lot going on. They were black. They had the massive hawk on it and all that stuff. I mean, I remember when they were relevant, and it's been a minute since they've been relevant, but here they are again. I mean, what has this shown you about the Philadelphia 76ers? How have they exposed it? But to put it to you like this. Are the Sixers beating themselves, or are the Hawks beating, where is kind of because you see this as a coach, sometimes you beat yourself more than you got beat by somebody. Are the Hawks exposing the Sixers, or are the Sixers exposing the Sixers?
I think it's a little of both, but how I would describe it, I think the Sixers are beating themselves and presenting the Hawks with opportunities, and the Hawks have been good enough to capitalize on opportunity. I think it's more Philly not taking care of their own business. The last couple of games, they've come out and locked in and everything. Philly looked phenomenal in the first half last night. I thought that game was heading to 30. So I think that it's more Philly beating themselves and not sticking with the things that have been good for them. I think the end of Game 4 was crazy. Embiid goes 0 for 12 in the second half, and then last night was just, complete collapse. You're up 24 with 2 to go in the third.
Yeah.
Playing at home. That's a game that should be in your back pocket at that point. I don't care who you're playing. So, so I think that Philly has mostly themselves to blame, but I do give Atlanta credit for, Philly's given them the opportunity and they've capitalized on it.
Yeah, and it is. Looking at the, how this game ended and how things just really fell apart within, the last 12 minutes of the fourth quarter, obviously. The 12 minutes of that quarter, but obviously before, as you made mention of it. Has Philly at any point this season made you feel like they're not a closer, or are they showing you this now, and is it new to you now?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because during the regular season, and I watched a lot of Sixers games in the regular season and everything, and even earlier on in the playoffs, I think they've been a very good closing team. They have, Philly has really finished out games pretty well over the course of the season, and either playing through Embiid or playing through Harris. They've been pretty effective down the stretch, but in this game or this series, it just, in games 1, 2, and 3, Philly was, even game 1 that Atlanta won. That game has another minute to go. Philly probably wins that game. They had Atlanta on the ropes at the end of that game, if you remember. So, even in this series, they've been pretty good up until these last 2 games. And it's, I think Simmons is in his own head on the foul line, and, Atlanta's exploiting that by taking the intentional fouls. But even like last night's, 3-point game, Embiid's on the foul line and he misses 2. So I think Philly is kind of in their own way and in their own heads at this point.
Yeah, and they're put in a position right now that in order to win the series, they have to play all 7 games. Did your thoughts on that? Knowing they got to go to Atlanta now, and win in Atlanta and then come back home. I mean, there's no way around it. If they want to take this thing, they got to take it in 7. How are you doing on the sweats, and what are you doing to keep yourself sane in the house? Do you have a regimen of how you calm yourself down? Do you get too hot? Do you get too cold? What's going on with this, Dave? Knowing that in order to win this series, they're going to have to force a Game 7, and that's the only way to get out of this thing alive.
Yeah, I mean, they've really, you talk about, like we said, Atlanta's taking advantage of opportunity. Philly has pissed away opportunity, in my opinion. They, they had a chance to put a stranglehold on the series, go up 3-1, then could have closed it out last night. Gotten a little bit of rest for Embiid, rest for everybody else. Get Danny Green healthy maybe in the next round. Yeah. Meanwhile, Brooklyn and Milwaukee are looking like they're going. They could very well go 7 games. So Philly could have really put themselves in a very favorable position. As it is now, I mean, you're absolutely right. They're going to have to fight for their lives. And I saw that. Philly's a 2-point favorite in Atlanta, which really surprises me. I thought the Hawks would be the betting favorite in Game 6, given how the last 2 games have ended. But I think that Philly's really got their backs to the wall, and Embiid, who's the guy that they can kind of strap their cart to in a lot of situations. Physically, I don't know where he's at. I don't know if he's able to kind of put the team on his back right now physically.
Yeah, and plenty of games coming up. Every series is in a 3-2 situation. Phoenix swept the Denver Nuggets, so they'll be sitting and waiting. Is this a perfect position for Phoenix to be in with Chris Paul in COVID protocol and whatnot? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? It seems like Paul can't catch a break, and but Phoenix has the most amount of time, and depending on how some of these series go, and obviously the series that affects them, Utah and LA, the Clippers, if that thing goes 7, then maybe we get Chris Paul back. What are your thoughts on the Phoenix? First and foremost, what are your thoughts on Phoenix being the only one to sweep the second round, and everybody else looks like they could go 7? They're definitely going 6. They swept in 4 games. So thoughts on Phoenix being the one team of all of these teams left that took care of business as fast as possible, and how is this a blessing in disguise that they did it so quickly and that the other series are taking time to maybe get Chris Paul back?
Well, I mean, Phoenix had everything lined up. The stars were lined up perfectly for Phoenix because, like you said, with the sweep and the rest time coming up and everything, and then they got hit with Chris Paul and the COVID protocol. So I think it all depends on how quickly he navigates the protocol. If he's out for for an extended period, which could stretch into the next round, then that's a problem for Phoenix. But if it was going to happen and happening now at this time where Phoenix is down for another another several days, and depending on how long the Utah Clippers series goes, the timing, it's not a good thing, but the timing that happened now is probably as good as anything, anytime for Phoenix versus had, Chris Paul or another key player hit COVID protocol when they're, right in the meat of a series.
Yeah, I mean, and the stars have aligned, so hopefully Chris Paul will be able to get back and he'll be okay, and more than anything else, he'll be healthy and well, and we won't have to worry about that. And his family, hopefully everybody's doing well. So our best to anybody dealing with any type of sickness or COVID protocol or whatever it may be, praying and hoping that everybody is okay. The Jazz and, to look at Phoenix as they wait, the Jazz and the Clippers, let's talk about another thing. Kawhi, now it's like, look at everything he's done. I mean, the man in the first round had 41 points in 41 minutes in one of the games, and there were people out there ripping him that he wasn't doing enough, and I know that there's a side of it defensively. But, what are your thoughts on the Clippers? They have the jump on the Jazz, the number 1 seed. The Clip, have the jump on the Jazz after barely escaping the Mavericks. And here we are looking at a situation where it's like they find a way to escape the Mavericks in a 4-5 matchup. Then they get the Jazz, the number 1 team. The Jazz don't look like they're commanding this. The Clippers are commanding this. And now Kawhi's doing his thing and Kawhi's not going to be around. What are your thoughts about what's going on for LA and these Clippers as Kawhi looked like he was dead in the water with his team, and now they're alive, and now they're leading the series, and now they can close out the series, but now they're not going to have Kawhi?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, from a Clippers perspective, I think playoff Paul really exercised a lot of demons last night. I mean, he put team on his back, and so I think that it was really outstanding performance by a guy who has had the reputation of coming up small sometimes in the big moments. So a lot of credit to him last night, and really kind of carrying that team to a win that was pretty unexpected given Kawhi being out. If Kawhi, if it turns out to be ACL and he's out for the rest of the postseason, I don't see how the Clippers can get past the next round. I mean, they may be able to grab steal one more against Utah, but if Kawhi's out for the rest of the playoffs, I think that pretty much dashes their title hopes. The other side of that series from the Utah perspective, I think had Philly not given the game away last night, the big topic of conversation today would be how Utah, flushed a golden opportunity down the toilet by not being able to take care of business last night in that game. They're 2-2 at home, and Kawhi Leonard not playing. I mean, that's a game that Utah needs to win. I mean, if they're gonna win the series. So I mean, their backs are to the wall, probably as much or more than Philly. They're in kind of the same situation. Number 1 seed, got to go on the road down 3-2, and it really. If you're a Jazz fan, you got to be almost as disheartened as if you're a Sixer fan today. And Mike Conley being out, I mean, that is proving to be a big loss for Utah. They certainly have not played as well. So.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we could see both number 1 seeds go down. Who do you think is more vulnerable right now, the Sixers or the Jazz?
Great question. I think Utah, only from the standpoint of, I think the Clippers are better than the Hawks, if that makes any sense. I think the gap between the Jazz and, just looking at the two teams, lining up strengths and weaknesses, and I think the gap between the Jazz and the Clippers is significantly less than the gap between the Sixers and the Hawks. So, I think the Sixers at their best are significantly better team than the Hawks. The Jazz at their best are a better team than the Clippers, but it's not by that wide of a margin. So, okay. Of course, Kawhi's out, Conley's out, so neither team's at full strength. So, I think if you told me you had to pick one of the two to win on Friday, and one was going to lose, I would say the Sixers probably have a little better shot at Atlanta than the Jazz do at LA. But wouldn't want to be in either one of their situations. So,
if the Jazz lose to the Clippers without Kawhi out there, what does it say about Utah? Were they a pretender the whole time? How do we view that?
Well, I don't want to say they're a pretender. I mean, they were the best team in the league over the course of the whole regular season. And I think they've got somewhat of a built-in excuse of their own with Conley being out and everything. I think it's more of a situation of, I don't feel like Utah is necessarily playing their best basketball as we hit the postseason. whereas a team like Phoenix certainly is. So, I think if either Philly or Utah or both go out this round, the fans of those teams have to be, bitterly disappointed, because I think, both of those teams and both of those fan bases had every right to expect at least conference finals. So.
Yeah, so it puts us in a very interesting situation as things round out here and we continue to watch the NBA playoffs unfold before our eyes. Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball coach and analyst, and your head coach for the NVU Linden Hornets men's basketball Division III team. Dave and I will be back right after this fast break with more conversation to be had about this. We still have to get into some other pieces of the NBA and get your take right after this fast break. So if you have some thoughts, make sure you send them in. And as always, we appreciate Dave being here with us to give his take on everything that's going on inside of the league. And we are here inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, ready to talk about plenty more right after this.
Cafe Kubal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafekubal.com. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Find your way out there, but download their app on your way. And before you go, get out to that app. You can search it on the Google Play and Apple App Store for the Millhouse Market. They will have everything at your fingertips. There's directions from wherever you are on how to get to the Millhouse Market from your exact location, as well as the entire menu and contactless pay on the app. They make it so easy and so user-friendly to go on the app and find their homemade breads and desserts, their salads, quinoa bowls, rice bowls, and as well as their brick oven pizzas. My favorite, the bee sting pizza, and the margarita pizza up there is awesome as well. And a big shout out to all of their sandwiches that are named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. Ingrained in our taste buds and ingrained in our community, they are open Tuesday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sundays from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Make your way out to the Millhouse Market for their drive-through window, indoor dining, as well as their bistro specialty menu that changes every weekend inside, and their general store where you can get local products from local companies even outside of the Millhouse Market, because they support the community and support so many other businesses that are helping to keep Central New York going strong. So big thanks to the Millhouse Market for all that they do, and make sure you find your way out there today. Dave and I were talking off the air, and Dave, I didn't mean to cut you off by any stretch of imagination as we were coming back, but I asked you about LeBron James, and inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios here with Dave Pasiak talking about the NBA playoffs. LeBron sounded off on Twitter and made his point very felt here, and I want to read the direct quotes and get your thoughts on it. So LeBron had some comments following, obviously his team is no longer in, and Anthony Davis had his, injury that went down, and we're seeing things, obviously with Kawhi that we talked about before the fast break. So LeBron James's exact words here, I would like to share with everybody and get your take on it. And like you were saying to me off the air, he's not the first person to make a comment, but obviously LeBron is a lightning rod in not just sports, but in pop culture. And so he made the comment, which is this. He actually had a long comment here. I know some of it was carried, but he had a thread. And it's, quote, "They all didn't want to listen to me about the start of the season. I knew exactly what would happen. I only wanted to protect the well-being of the players, which ultimately is the, in caps, product and caps benefit of caps our game. These injuries isn't just in caps and quote part of the game. It's the lack of in caps pure." He said rim rest before starting back up, and possibly 9 All-Stars has missed playoff games, most in league history. This is the best time of the year for our league and fans, but missing a ton of our favorite players. It's insane. If there's one person that know about the body and how it works all year round, it's in caps me. I speak for the health of all of our players, and I hate to see this many injuries this time of year. Sorry, fans. Wish you guys were seeing all your favorite guys right now. How much of this is just, the wear and tear of a season, and how much is LeBron right?
Well, I mean, he's not saying anything that hadn't been raised by a lot of people. Going back, you and I talked about this back in the bubble in the fall, about how it would be really interesting to see with a quick turnaround what the effect was going to be at the end of this season in the playoffs. And, it's something that I think anybody, like the people in the league, the players and management, and especially like the medical folks, and I think, fans and people that follow the league, I think everybody, most people that have any kind of connection to the league had a concern that the quick turnaround and the condensed schedule could lead to what we're seeing. And, I don't think that it's a coincidence that the Lakers and the Heat went to the NBA Finals and both teams were bounced in the first round. And, I think Boston was the other finalist in the Eastern Conference, and they're bounced in the first round. And, Denver was the other finalist in the West, and it was pretty clear that they were out of gas. They got out of the first round, but they were out of gas in the second round. And, I don't think it's a huge surprise. And, there's a lot of, people are speculating now that the teams that play deep into this playoffs, how is it going to affect them in the next year? Because next year the league is back on the regular calendar. So, it's still not going to be like ordinarily we'd be in the NBA Finals right now. And so we still got, another good month of season or playoffs left to go. So I think there's a lingering concern there. But at the end of the day, the decision was that, for economic reasons, they needed to forge forward and get back to a normal calendar year for the league. So, that's the consequence of that decision.
Do you like, though, back in the day, players didn't rest. Jordan didn't say, I'm going to take like 3 games off and come back when I feel like it. There was the time where it was like, are the San Antonio Spurs, when Popovich was doing it, there was the thought of, should they be fined? It was like an upheaval in the NBA, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing this. What, like a travesty to the sport? And then all of a sudden, it's like it become a normal thing. Like, you rest James Harden, you rest LeBron James, you rest Kevin Durant, you rest Steph Curry. Do you like this? As a coach, do you like the... you wouldn't rest your best players at any point in your season at NVU Linden. So, I know it's different levels of the game, but are you for or against the resting of players? Because I don't know. I guess growing up, I grew up in an era where it's like there's 82 games. If you can't handle that, don't play basketball. So, I don't understand it because I came from like the gritty. You know, my grandparents were gritty, my parents are gritty, I'm gritty. So, you know, it's like I don't like take 3 days off from being a broadcaster for like self-help. You know, I mean, I just need to rest. You know what I mean? And I understand it's not wear and tear on the body the same way, but it's a lot of mental stuff. It's a lot of hard work. And people have no idea when you're at a computer all day, it's like your mind is running a mile, 10 miles, and then your body gets fatigued from doing it. So everybody has fatigue at their jobs in other ways, shapes, and forms. But do you like this whole hey boss, I'm going to take a day off. I'm totally fine. I just need to rest. What is that doing to the game, and are you okay with it? In even a regular season, are you okay with, a player just sitting out for a few days so that he'll be ready for the playoffs in 3 months or 2 weeks or whatever it may be?
Well, there's a couple of ways to look at that. As a fan of the league and a fan of the sport, obviously you want to see everybody at full strength, and you want to see the best players out there as much as possible. So, so from that perspective, yeah, I mean, it's something that we don't like and wish wasn't a part of the game. The flip side of that is, exercise science and health science and care of the body and training methods and whatnot. I think we learn more and more every day, and like athletes with the amount of money invested in professional athletes and the amount of money in the game today, people are essentially looking at that as protecting their investments, and you see it more and more. I mean, it's very apparent in basketball, obviously, because 5 guys on the floor, and it's when a high profile guy doesn't play, it's a big deal. But I mean, it's extended to a certain extent in all professional sports. I mean, you look at baseball, everybody's a 5-man pitching rotation now, and sometimes 6, and starters are 6-inning pitchers now. And the days of your starter going out there every 4th game and giving you 9 innings are history. So I mean, it's really similar to that. So I think as a fan you cannot like it, but I think it's become part of the game. And I mean, LeBron is right about one thing that he said there, that like nobody knows their body better than him, and I think that's a fair statement. I mean, if you follow him or know anything about what LeBron does, I mean, his routine and his regimen has allowed him to stay up until the last couple of years. I mean, he has stayed as injury free as any elite athlete, and stayed at a ultra high level probably longer than any athlete of his stature in recent history. So I think that health science and exercise science dictates that rest is beneficial for long-term careers of athletes, and in turn the investments of the teams. I think you're going to continue to see it. So we cannot like it, but I think it's here.
Yeah, and I struggle with it because I don't know. The game that I watched was so Karl Malone and John Stockton weren't like, yeah, we're going to take the day off. It's Sean Kemp and Gary Payton were like, we're not going to play today. It's not something. Dikembe Mutombo didn't do it. Mookie Blaylock didn't do it. Clyde Drexler didn't do it. Hakeem Olajuwon didn't do it. So, Reggie Miller. I mean, the Knicks would have loved for Reggie Miller to take some days off, but he didn't. So, Allen Iverson, for goodness sakes. So, I don't know. To me, I just think it's not great for the sport. It doesn't make me feel good. I don't like it. So, but I get the quick turnaround of the season, but at the same time, it's like at some point you had to even things out, right, Dave? I mean, you can't start the season late every year. So at some point, something needed to happen. And here's the thing, too. I would go to LeBron and say, okay, LeBron, well, how about this? this forces, if a superstar goes down, this forces a team to show if they're actually a cohesive unit. It forces them to have to win without. I mean, so many teams have had to win without. And in the Raptors, I mean, I got nervous at times in these last few seasons when somebody went down and I had to deal with that. I'm like, okay, this guy's not healthy, that guy's not healthy. How are they going to win? So, I think that everybody deals with that in some way, shape, or form. Be it corona, be it a quick turnaround, be it a freak injury in practice, be it, somebody was on a skateboard outside and fell off of it. Anything can happen on any given day. So as much as I understand, him saying like, hey, I warned everybody about this quick turnaround, I would argue back and say, hey, this could literally happen at any given time because, things happen. So I don't think that it's a scapegoat for the Lakers, and I don't think it's a scape. I mean, again, like you said, if Kawhi's out, but so is Conley. So it's not like either team is a full go. And, obviously if your guy goes down, but I mean, okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben's gone down in recent history multiple times, and they've been atrocious. But that had nothing to do with Corona. So I think things happen and you have to adjust. And when you build these super teams, then somebody should be able to pick up the slack in some way, shape, or form. And, a team should be a team. We don't call it the individuals. They're not the Los Angeles LeBrons. So I think, for me personally, it sucks if it happens. Of course it's terrible if your best player goes down and your second best player goes down. But it forces a team to have to really prove their mettle and who they are and how good is the coaching and did you draft the right. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars for years have not had a healthy offensive line with all five guys all season, and you see the effects of that. So they have to build depth. You have to build depth. And what do coaches tell you all the time? And you could say this. When guys go down and it forces you to play guys that you weren't ready to play, even if they mess up, it still gives them invaluable experience that they're going to take into next season, and now they're a year more prepared than they were going to be, so it doesn't pay off in the short term, but it pays off in the long run. So, I mean, I can make a lot of arguments for this, that a team sport needs to be a team sport, and other guys have to step up, and they have to find a way to figure it out and grind it out, and the great teams figure out a way to do it. There's some really fundamentally sound teams that find a way to win when something happens, because it could happen at any given time. Kawhi could literally be like grabbing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the team's training facility and roll his ankle the wrong way when he's trying to leave. Somebody could hit him with the door and it could make him fall backwards and tear his ACL. I mean, literally any of this stuff can happen. So I just think there's a lot to be said about that, and I just believe that a team should be a team. And I granted, your best player goes down, your ace goes down in baseball, your quarterback goes down. I get it, but you would like to think that you have to be prepared for that, Dave. You have to, as a coach, be prepared for your best players to not be available, be it school, be it a death in the family, be it an injury. You have to do the best that you possibly can to prepare for things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything he said, but but at the same time, it's all about risk management and trying to maximize your career and maximize your investment. So, I think, teams definitely have to deal with it, but I think you're trying to, minimize the likelihood that you're going to have to deal with it. That's why they put things in players' contract like no skydiving, So,
yeah.
I think, the bottom line is in professional sports that, the NBA or the NFL, or Major League Baseball, they are not as attractive properties if their best players and most marketable players have their careers shortened and are on the injured list for extended periods of time. And I think from a business standpoint, I think that's why you're seeing teams being really protective of their investments and their assets.
Yeah, and you have to be, and at the same time, if it gets like insane and a guy's staying out 15 games, then I would write into the contract and say, okay, you don't get your full pay for those games. You get half pay. or you get a quarter pay, or whatever it may be, is like, if you're not going to, it's kind of like if Dave Chappelle said that he's going to come to Syracuse and he's going to do 4 shows, and he decides to not do one of them, but he wants to be paid for all 4. If I was the marketer, I would say, if you're not going to be on stage and people came to see you, I'm not paying you for all 4. I'll pay you a percentage of what I was going to pay you that equals out to 75%, 3/4. So it's like, that's how I feel about it, because they came to see you. So there's got to be some... I'm all about them building longevity, but if I was the owner, my argument back to them would be, okay, let's say for argument's sake, I pay you $10,000 a game. The games you sit out, I'm going to pay you $5,000. It's not going to kill you. You'll find a way to live on your $34 million contract, but I'm not paying you for full price if you're going to come and sit like everybody else in the stands. I'm not going to pay you as much if I want to pay you at all. So I think I'm all about the longevity, but there has to be a fairness factor that goes back and forth, because if you're not going to play those games, then I have to use that money to find somebody who wants to play those games, who is maybe not as good as you, but is aspiring to be a better player, and I need to win those games. So if I need to win, then I need the money that you're not... I'm trying to protect my investment in that respect, because I invested in you, you're not on the court or on the field, so now I have to go find somebody and give them your money. Though, what I'm going to take away from you, I'm going to use that toward them, put it in a little pool, and I'm going to utilize it. If Chappelle's coming for 3 out of 4 shows, but he's not going to do the 4th, I got to get another act in here. I got to call Kevin Hart. I got to call Jim Gaffigan. I got to call Brian Regan. I got to get somebody here for day 4. And guess what? The fans are still going to boo. They might love Brian Regan, but they wanted Dave Chappelle. So it's not going to be horrible, but it ain't going to be great. So, I think about it from that perspective. I have to protect my asset, but I also have to protect my team.
Right, but I think one of the things you got to keep in mind is that those decisions to rest players and whatnot, and to hold people out, those are generally being made by the teams as much or more so than by the players, and the teams and their medical staffs and everything. I think. You look at how they've held Harden out. I think if Harden had his druthers, he'd have been back a couple of games earlier. Or you look at like week 16, week 17 in the NFL when the team's got the playoffs clinched. It's the team and the management that's making a decision to sit the quarterback and the running back. It's not the players as much as it is the franchise. So I think players by their nature want to be out there. So I do think the players' unions in the NBA and the various professional sports, I think the union, like from a union standpoint, I think they're, looking to maximize careers and maximize longevity. But I think the individual players, I don't think are necessarily the ones driving the decisions to load manage and everything.
Well, I think it's case by case, because if it is the team, then yeah, the team can't fine you for making a decision with you. But if it's your decision and they're being held hostage, then that's another story. And I think that in and of itself has to, and I also think you have to let fans know, which I don't know why they would, because they're going to lose money. But if I'm bringing my kid across country from New York to LA to see LeBron, and my kid loves LeBron and it's his favorite, that's his favorite player, and LeBron's not going to play in that game, I don't need to make the trip out there and spend all that money. So, alert me a couple days in advance and say, hey, LeBron's sitting today. And I understand that things happen in the moment or whatever, but I would feel terrible if I brought my kid across the country, spending $1,000 at least for him to be at that game, and he has to watch his first Laker game with his LeBron jersey on, and LeBron is sitting there in a suit texting on his phone. So, it's like, there's all different ends of it, because there are people that are going to go to one NBA game their entire life, and I hope to God it's not the game that their favorite player decided to not play. So, that's hard for me, especially, like I said, growing up, your ace pitched in the rotation. He didn't say, I'm not going to do this rotation. I want to see longevity, but there were guys that were insanely unhealthy. Babe Ruth, cheeseburgers, beer, and cigars. He was the antithesis of what you're supposed to be as an athlete, health-wise. But he didn't say, I want to sit out. I'm not going to play this game. I might have a heart attack because I just ate 9 cheeseburgers on the way to the arena. But he still played. So, I mean, that man could probably, take a pitcher of beer, drink it, go up there and bang a home run. So, it's just... And it's also, Hank Aaron, for everything that players had to go through of color, for him to be out there, I can't imagine that he would ever say, yeah, I'm going to sit out this game. Because to him, it was like being there. Jackie Robinson, it was just being there. At any given time, I'm sure in the back of Jackie's head, it was like, they could take this game away from me like they took it away from me before. So, I don't think Ernie Davis would ever said, I'm going to sit out. It's just, or Jim Brown, or Floyd Little. So I think it's hard to stomach it. I understand trying to protect the longevity, but when I was growing up as a kid, the longevity of the players was more than now. Emmitt Smith was playing forever at running back. Supposed to play 2.5 years in the NFL now for a running back, and the man's playing over a decade, and he was still running over people. So it's a multi-layered lasagna, and sometimes I just don't think it looks edible. But my final piece of this, Dave, Milwaukee and Brooklyn, because we have not talked about this series. What are your thoughts? Is Milwaukee surprising you? Is Brooklyn letting you down? Are they? Where do we stand in this? Brooklyn's the 2 seed. Milwaukee's the 3 seed. Milwaukee has been more relevant in the last decade than Brooklyn before they put together their super team. So, what's your take on this? And dare I ask you, what's your take on Kevin Durant? Because I don't need Kevin Durant to be compared to LeBron James. I don't think that's fair. I think Kevin Durant in and of himself should be... this man was drafted by the worst team in basketball, the Seattle Supersonics. When they left Seattle and went to Oklahoma City, he went with them, and he stayed on that team, and he tried to make it work. I don't knock him for going to Golden State after he did everything he could for Oklahoma City. He stayed there for years upon years, and he signed extensions. I was at Summer League when he came to Summer League to watch the Thunder, and then went and quietly signed an extension without even making a big deal about it. Then he goes to Golden State. Now he's at Brooklyn. This man is an extremely talented player. He was the number 2 pick. Who was the number 1 pick that year? Greg Oden, who had injuries his entire career. God bless him. I hope he's okay. But Greg Oden, my lord, coming out of Ohio State, it didn't work out. Kevin Durant, number 2 pick out of Texas. He's weathered so many storms. Can we talk about Kevin Durant without talking about LeBron James, number 1? And what do you think about the series of Brooklyn and Milwaukee?
Well, KD put Brooklyn on his back the last game because that's been a crazy series. Milwaukee really looked bad the first 2 games, and going in, we thought it would be a really, really interesting, really competitive series. Bucks got blown out the first 2 games, but then they went home and they took care of business twice. And then Kyrie goes down. Harden played but wasn't good the other night. But the thing about Harden playing that people don't understand, even though he wasn't good, is he occupies attention. The defense has to be aware of him. So I think him just being out there certainly opened things up a little bit more for KD. But he was tremendous in the last game. But I think he's been the clear second best player in the world for when he's been healthy. Except for when he wasn't healthy. He's been the clear number 2 for a long time. Him playing at a high level, like with his length, PJ Tucker has played him as well as maybe anybody in recent years. But when Durant's got it going because of his length, that's one thing about basketball is people like to say, well, defense wins championships. Not in basketball. Great offense will trump great defense at the NBA, at the elite level. Guys like Durant, guys like that can, when they've got it going and they can score, there's not anything a defender is going to do other than make it a little bit more difficult. But there's no such thing as a real true lockdown, on elite players like that. He's a great player and has been for a long time. And I think, people it was interesting. He was like one of the most liked guys in the NBA when he was Oklahoma City, and then he kind of took on the black hat when he went to Golden State and everything.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, I think maybe doesn't get as much respect as he deserves to get for his game. I mean, that game the other night was phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And the thing is, why did he ever catch hate? I mean, for goodness sakes, he spent almost a decade, away from a team like Golden State. So I don't know. I don't think it's fair what KD's been through up to this point. I don't think he has to prove anything, to be completely honest. So he is where he is, and they are where they are. Dave, final piece of this is that, Brooklyn has won at home. They've lost on the road. Literally, won 3 games at home, lost the 2 that they're on the road. Does this just benefit Brooklyn that Game 7, if need be, is going to be at home? Because if this series goes the way it's been going, then they'll win their home games. And what does it say about Brooklyn being in that scenario? I mean, granted, if they play the Hawks, they'll be the main home act. If they play the Sixers, they won't. But what does it say about Brooklyn that in this series they're winning at home and losing on the road? Where are we with them?
Well, I think Brooklyn and Milwaukee are both really good. So, I think they're the 2 best offensive teams in the league, during the regular season. So, I don't think it's any surprise that, a lot of guys are playing better at home just because they're more comfortable. So, I think you've seen that on both sides in that series. If Brooklyn, if they get Kyrie and Harden back and reasonably healthy, they just have a lot of weapons. And the other thing that Brooklyn has, like, there was a lot of concern or a lot of criticism of Brooklyn that, they got a lot of offensive firepower, but they can't guard anybody. And I think the one thing Brooklyn has shown a little bit in the playoffs is that when they're so inclined, they're a fairly good defensive team. They have, they've at various times in this series and in this playoffs really defended well and taken Milwaukee out of what they want to do. So, Brooklyn, I think the biggest thing that they're fighting right now is getting everybody healthy. But they've got the best player in the playoffs in Durant, and sometimes that in and of itself is good enough to carry you a long way. So, I do think if Atlanta manages to knock out the Sixers, I think whether it's Brooklyn or Milwaukee, I honestly think they'll steamroll Atlanta in the next round. So, I think like this next Game 6 for Brooklyn, I think is big too, because they could use all the downtime that they can get as well. So, this year in the playoffs, like, not having to play any more games than you have to and not giving games away, I think is really, really a big part of the equation all the way around.
That coming from Dave Pasiak, NVU Linden Hornets men's basketball Division III head coach, and of course, a very good friend of mine and a longtime basketball coach, analyst, and enthusiast. Dave, as always, I appreciate it, and you push the term every time. When I think we've had our best show, I actually think today is. So thank you for your expertise, and I do. I'm hosting Wake Up Call, and at the same time, I'm listening to you as a fan. It's a beautiful thing, and it's to me, it's relegated to the people that really make their mark the way that they do. So I want to shout you out for that and let you know that if this wasn't my show and I was just sitting here, what a great conversation. And I always feel that way. I feel so educated and enthused and excited after our conversation. So thank you for what you do and what you bring to Wake Up Call, because it really is awesome to listen to in the moment and to go back and listen to as well.
Thanks for having me on, and always enjoy talking NBA or talking sports in general with you. So appreciate you having me on the show, Dan.
Dave Pasiak, DP. Listen, if you need me, I'm here for you in Philadelphia, but I'm hoping that you'll get some good news here, Dave, because my Toronto Raptors aren't in it, so that means I have to back even more so, the people that I know that have a dog in the race. So you have my hopes and my well wishes that they figure it out. My man Doc gets things right here, but thank you for everything as always, and I'll look forward to talking with you very soon. And in the meantime, just don't have any cold sweats hugging on to like a Philadelphia Snuggie or anything like that, okay?
We'll try to stay sane.
Okay. Yeah, please do that. I'll talk to you soon, and thank you for everything as always, okay?
All right, take care, Dan.
Take care. That coming from Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We're going to take a step aside for our final fast break of the show and get you ready for Friday. I can't believe it's Friday. Friday coming up, Father's Day weekend. What? We'll talk about it right after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, is your home for the Liverpool Warriors Athletic exclusive wake-up call show every single month, where we go to Avicoli's right down the road. You can literally walk there from Liverpool High School, and we go there to talk with the student athletes and the coaches of Liverpool, and we thank them so much for what they do. Avicoli's, your neighbor for so many years, decades in this beautiful Liverpool community. And like I said, right down the street from Liverpool High School, veal parmesan to their antipasta, their margarita pizza, and so much more. Avicoli's does it so good. You can bring their sauces home. You can get their pastas and bring that home with you as well. So many great things, Tuesday through Sunday, being open to you for takeout, delivery, catering, and indoor and outdoor dining. They have an outdoor patio area. They have fine dining, a pizza side, more casual dining, and a bar. 4 restaurants in one, essentially, and the takeout, delivery, and catering by calling 315-622-5100 and going to myavicolis.com. Canine Campground Dog Boarding and Canine Camp Dog Daycare are your homes for your furry-loving friends when you need to drop the dog off and you need somebody you can trust. Listen, trust is a big old thing. And, dropping your dog off with friends, I know this. Sometimes your friends are really good at taking care of your pup, and sometimes you want to call like Child Protective Services after they take care of your dog. So Canine Campground Dog Boarding and Canine Camp Dog Daycare are places that you can truly relax and go on your vacation, renovate the house, do whatever you got to do. When you need someone to take care of the dog for the day, they are the place to go. And when you need somebody to take care of the dog for the week or over a holiday season and you're traveling, whatever is going on, then the campground is the best place for you to go to. They're both located right by BJ's, right off of Bridge Street. Canine Campground, 242 Johnson Street of East Syracuse. And on 228 Old Bridge Street, you'll find the dog daycare. And at the dog daycare, you'll also find plenty of things you can get for your dog, from food to leashes to harnesses to a toothbrush and toothpaste for the pup. You can get it all at Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Campground Dog Boarding, your two-stop shop right by one another to take care of your furry-loving friends. PB&J's Lunchbox, home of the award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich with roasted pecans cut up and put all throughout. So good. I get the strawberry. You can get it with strawberry jelly or grape jelly. I also get their Philly cheesesteak pita, which is fantastical. And I just had their corn chowder and their homemade brownies. If I stay here long enough, I'm going to name the whole menu. PB&J's Lunchbox on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. It is their brick and mortar new location, their street side cafe. Their food truck for going all over the state of New York. Well, as you follow their food truck to all these different events, you can now follow right to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. So you don't have to wait for the food truck. You can go to them, which is a beautiful thing. They come to you, you go to them. Now it's cyclical, and now you never have to go a day without PB&J's Lunchbox on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, what a fantastic place. We just did a Tommy John special with 4 different athletes in Central New York, 2 that needed surgery and 2 that did not, that have all been helped by Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and you definitely got to watch that video, and I will make sure to re-air that for you folks. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics has helped me and countless people in our community. They're located on 791 West Genesee Street in Skinny Atlas, and there's nothing like Victory. It's not about winning today. It's about winning for your life. It's about preventative care. It's about rehab. It's about physical therapy. And sometimes it's about surgery. But you go to a place where they care about you, they listen to you, and they make their patient a priority. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. 315-685-7544. No matter where you live, it's worth the drive. 315-685-7544 when it comes to peace of mind. And with that being said, back here in the beautiful, wonderful Cafe Kubal Studios, Cafe Kubal giving you multiple locations, including their newest location, which is a drive-through, which you can go to on the Sweetheart Corners corner of Route 11 and Taft Road. Make sure you head out to Cafe Kubal today and fill your cup with your favorites, as I filled my cup today with my caramel chai from Cafe Kubal and my glass from my G-Mama that I got her, like a boss, which she actually drank out of for the first time at Avicoli's. See how I just put all that together? God is cyclical. So a beautiful thing, and thank you to Cafe Kubal, Avicoli's, and to all of our partners for all that they do and for the awesome memories and stories I get to tell by working with these great people. So a big time shout out to all of the beautiful partners we have in Central and Upstate New York here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. A big thank you to each and every single one of you for all that you do in our community, from Cafe Kubal to Carvel DeWitt and the Wildcat Sports Pub, Avicoli's, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, Pizza Man, Honda City of Liverpool, PB&J's Lunchbox, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, the Millhouse Market, and Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Use the promo code DT20 online if you're getting in-store pickup or you're having it delivered to any one of the 50 states. If you're going to pick it up in the store or have it delivered to you in any one of the states, all you have to do is place your order online, mark it for in-store pickup, or mark it for delivery to wherever you are, Hawaii, Alaska, New York, Florida, wherever. MonPazPopcorn.com. Use the promo code online and get the 20% off. If you're going in the store anyways, or if you're having it delivered to you, MonPazPopcorn.com. My dad loves kettle corn. I just got him some from Mon Paz. Go there now. It's not too late for Father's Day. Use the promo code DT20. That's DT20. By that being stated, you can find Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time by watching on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, where I share it, MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com. And after it goes live, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, you can find us in our archives on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and iHeartRadio, as well as Apple Podcasts, Podbean, TuneIn, and more, simply by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or searching one word, Wake Up Call DT. So if you do either one of those things, you will find us on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Podbean, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. So make sure that you do that today. Thank you to my awesome guests, Papa Joe, for bringing us to the nation's pastime and talking about being a dad and just having a nostalgic, beautiful, amazing instant special, and Dave Pasiak doing his best work today that he's ever done on the show. Awesome people, awesome time. I'll talk with you on TGIF. The trio of segments that we have: the Annoying Moment of the Week, brought to you by Carvel DeWitt; Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver, brought to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero with my co-host Juanita Ward. The Top Dog of the Week will be announced, brought to you by K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Campground Dog Boarding. And we will continue our commissioner conversations by having yet another commissioner that's never been on Wake Up Call join the show for the first time ever. To find out who it is, you got to follow us on Twitter at CallDT, Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, and you'll be the ones to find out before everybody else does. We'll talk with you then. In the meantime, please take care of yourselves and be good to each other and good to you. God bless, no stress. Do your best. You got this. I'll talk to you soon.